And playing in, that is Retaliation. That is Dean Ambrose's theme song from the WWE. And I got that on iTunes through Gear Network for $1.29. It's pretty sweet. You know, that theme kind of grew on me, as did the Ambrose character grow on me. But anyways, gearnetwork.com/iTunes will actually throw a link up there for you to get the song if you don't have it. If you like it, it's a good workout tune. I'm going to add this to the workout playlist whenever I get off my lazy ass and go work out. But in any event, yes, gearnetwork.com/iTunes. Ambrose. Pretty catchy song, his song. I like his character, too. I know you haven't really been keeping up on your WWE, but this kind of goes back to the old Talking Wrestling with JC Money podcast. I can't remember which episode it was, but it was just as the Shield was, I think the Shield was together. Which the Shield, for those who don't remember recent history, was Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, and Seth Rollins. Ambrose was the United States champion for well over a year, but I criticized that because he didn't defend it very much. They didn't really give him the platform. They always kept doing, 3-on-3 or tag team or whatever. Ambrose really wasn't defending the United States championship as much. So he finally lost it, and of course, some of the people that were, following Dean Ambrose from his Jon Moxley days were like, oh, he was screwed, blah, 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 this, that, and I'm kind of like, looked like they're gearing up Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns on the good guy and the bad guy side, and Dean Ambrose, I thought, was going to be kind of floundering in the middle. And boy, was I wrong. Ambrose has just hit it out of the park every week. He comes out, he's like a hybrid between Jake the Snake Roberts, Brian Pillman, and Steve Austin. It's one of the weirdest combinations of characters from history, but it works out so well when Ambrose does it. This past week, he had a little interview with a Seth Rollins mannequin. Yes, it was crazy and unstable, and he pile drove the mannequin, which, of course, I like those types of things.
Yeah.
It makes me laugh. Listen, I did, it brought me back. It brought me back to a show that I did in 2005 when I elbow dropped a box.
It's just so stupid.
It's so cheesy. Yes, it's cheesy, but it's one of those funny.
Stupid.
It's stupid. Okay. It's cheesy, whatever, but it works. It's hysterical with things like that because I don't know. I'm a huge mark for that. But okay, so that was a little bit of a wrestling talk here, a little bit of a throwback. But yes, $1.29 on iTunes. Get it via the Gear Network, please. Your purchases, any purchases you make through any of our affiliates, greatly helps support the podcast, supports the show, helps us get better equipment, keeps us free and independent, baby. All right. Week 8, Dawn. The NFL.
Yeah.
How's your fantasy team doing?
My fantasy team's doing great. Better than your fantasy team after last week, huh?
Yeah, I forgot about that. If I remembered that you were going to mention anything like that. If I remember that we were playing each other, I might not have mentioned it this week. But
yeah.
in the Western New York Football League, I started out 0-2. Wasn't sure what the heck I was doing. I was getting mad and whatever. And then I just belted out 4 games in a row. I was destroying people. Except for Mr. Perez. I ended up beating him by a few decimal points of a difference there. But so we get to this big matchup. Myself and Dawn. Mm-hmm. Dawn's New York Football Knights against my Rochester Royals. For those who don't know, the Rochester Royals were an NBA team in the 1940s. They won the NBA title. Go Royals!
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. Nobody even knows. No. Young folks were like, you were talking about Ambrose, and now you're talking about basket poops. I don't know. But in any event, so we go there, and I've got my lineup set. I'm ready to go. And then Jimmy Graham, he's not in there. He's one of my big point guys. Peyton Manning was Peyton Manning. He broke the record.
He did.
But everybody else on my team didn't show up, and I lost again to Dawn. So Dawn is not only is the division leader, but she holds the best record in the entire league. Now, she's tied with Mr. Qua, that lucky bastard him. at 5-2.
And Sean Lucas.
And Lucas, yes. But the point differential plays in favor of Dawn, so she would, if the season ended today, she would once again get the bye and coast into round 2. She's really good at fantasy football, and I wish I could say I know what her strategy is, but truth be told, Dawn, I don't even think you know what your strategy is.
Oh, I know what my strategy is.
Okay, what's your strategy then?
I'm not telling you.
Have you ever you wanted to try FanDuel? You should try FanDuel. As good as you are on these, you should try FanDuel.
I should try FanDuel. And you know what? If I try FanDuel, I will definitely go through Gear Network.
That is very much appreciated.
Yes. And
so,
you should too.
So not only did I have to hear, trash talking from Dawn for beating me, this week in the Wolfensteiner Football League, I am playing against the host of Better Live Than Dead, Ryan Wolf. Ryan, I beat the streak last week. I beat the lone unbeaten. He was hammering everybody. And my New York Jets-like team that's just trotting along in the Wolfensteiner Football League smacked the hell out of them, put that one loss in the column. So I'm coming. It's going to be the streak, and I'm going to repeat. Now, speaking of streaks.
Well, now I know we're not talking about the Jets.
Oh, we're talking about the Jets because they have a streak going.
Oh, they're okay.
They are
not
on
a winning streak.
No, they are on an epic 6-game losing streak. They have lost. They won their first game against the Oakland Raiders and proceeded to lose out the rest so far. They are headed back to MetLife Stadium with their tails tucked between their legs after just a heartbreaking defeat by the New England Patriots. A game that they could have won. A game that, by all rights, they probably should have won. But they didn't. They found a way to score 25 points, put up insane amount of rushing yards, and still lose. So now they're heading back to MetLife Stadium, tails tucked between their legs, to play the 4-3 Buffalo Bills. The surprise 4-3 Buffalo Bills. Now, Rex Ryan, as the head coach of the New York Football Jets, when he took office in 2009, has a 7-3 record against the Bills. He's only lost 3 times. But when you look at the teams, when you look at what the Jets faced coming in here, and future Hall of Famer, borderline Hall of Famer, definite Hall of Famer, Peyton Manning, definite Hall of Famer in Tom Brady, those are very, very difficult. Now you're going to Kyle Orton and the Buffalo Bills. Now the Bills have their playmakers. They do have their playmakers with the rookie Sammy Watkins, but they've lost Fred Jackson for a month, and they've lost C.J. Spiller for the rest of the year. So they have to rely on the big defense, Now the Jets also play defense pretty. I'm not going to say they're spectacular like they have been in years past, but they play defense okay. So, as the Dolphins fan in the room here, Dawn, how do you see, based on what you've heard, not necessarily what you've seen, but based on what you've heard and the complaints that I've had regarding the Jets, I've picked the Jets to beat the Bills. Not because I'm a fan of the Jets. Not because I dislike the Bills, because I do not dislike the Bills. But I think that losing 6 games has got to strike a nerve in somebody there. It's got to make them mad. They've got to be playing with a chip on their shoulder, knowing that everybody has mailed the season in. You've got an easier rest of the way schedule. The season's lost. They're not going to make the playoffs. In order to make the playoffs, they'd have to win out and hope for some help. How do you see this playing out?
Yeah, I will say that the last game they played, they looked better out there. Slightly. That being said, I'm not so sure that they're going to win this. I almost feel like it's had the opposite effect on them, where they kind of feel like, beaten down, they can't do it, that mentally they can't get over that block. So that would be my thought on it. I guess we'll see what happens this week, but I think it's going to have the opposite effect. I don't think that it's going to be that kick in the pants, so to speak, that they need to win this game and start playing like a team.
Indeed, and let's look at it like this here. As far as the Bills go, again, the Jets haven't really faced any pedestrian quarterback since week 1 when they faced Derek Carr. But 6 games, 3 future Hall of Famers and probably 1 or 2 borderline Hall of Famers, depending on how well Phillip Rivers does throughout the remainder of his career. But they're going to Kyle Orton now. Kyle Orton is 2-1 since replacing EJ Manuel, but Sammy Watkins is going to be he's going to be the difference maker for them. Orton is a great game manager. He's a good game manager. He's always been a good game manager. I've always been high on Kyle Orton. I wish the Jets would have went out and got him when Mark Sanchez was beginning to have his struggles instead of going out and getting Tim Tebow and going out and doing whatever the hell they did to completely ruin Sanchez. Who's now Jets fans are like, oh, we'd take Sanchez over Geno. You freaking bunch of crybabies. It's really going to boil down to how they handle Sammy Watkins, to be perfectly honest with you. But another big splash that they made, I guess, is they acquired Percy Harvin from the Seattle Seahawks. Now, Percy Harvin signed with Seattle last year out of Minnesota. He was acquired by Seattle from Minnesota. Then he signed a 6-year deal to remain in Seattle. Percy Harvin has battled injuries. He's battled migraines, which have taken him out of the game.
He's battled other players.
He's battled other players, which is kind of what I was going to get to here. Part of me is excited because if Percy Harvin is healthy, assuming Geno Smith can target where he's going to throw the ball to and Percy gets to it, I think the combination of Percy Harvin and Eric Decker are certainly going to be a lot better one, with Curley playing the slot, who, by the way, Jeremy Curley just signed a 4-year, $11 million extension, which I like that particular signing. But you have Curley playing the slot, you have Eric Decker and Percy Harvin playing the outside, you have your rookie tight end, Jace Amaro, in there. They've got a decent passing squad there. It's just a passer. It's just a guy that's going to be throwing him the ball. You take Kyle Orton and you put him in the Jets, and they're winning. I think they're winning. They would be at least an 8-8 team. But the story coming out of this week was that Percy Harvin was having problems with Russell Wilson. He was having problems with a bunch of players on his team. He was having problems with not Bill Belichick, Pete Carroll, the coach. So of course he's got to be a New York Jet.
Right, exactly.
I
mean, it's almost a perfect fit, really, if you think about it. And then you wonder why the Jets are doing so piss poor. I mean, think about what it's like in that locker room, the group of guys that they have right now in that locker room. What can you really expect out of this team?
I mean, at this point, I throw in the towel. Unless there is an act of God and the Jets run the table and finish 10-6, which I got news for you, Jets fans, it ain't happening. I see the New York Jets closing out the season at best 5-11.
Yeah. I mean, I have to just touch base on this Percy Harvin's trade because, to be honest, when I first heard about it, I thought that seemed so odd. Why would they go and make a trade like that? But then when I started reading about it and I read kind of like what a negative person he's been in that locker room, then I understood why they would want to make that trade. But what I can't understand is why the Jets continue to pick up these types of players and think that they're benefiting their team with them. It's just, I will never understand.
I think that might have a little more to do with Pete Carroll, rather John Idzik, the general manager of the New York Jets, coming from Seattle and having Seattle Seahawk ties and being friends with everybody from Seattle. Maybe it just might have been a classic case of, screw it, your season's done. Would you mind taking them off our hands,
I I mean, let's be honest, we probably could spend another 20 minutes talking about the problems in the Jets organization. But at this point, we should probably cut to